Right, lads, so we are joined with Michael Murphy. Michael, we were talking a bit off air there. You said you freed up the whole night, so we'll probably be here chatting away for a while, which I suppose is always a good thing. But I do appreciate you coming on the podcast and having a chat. We planned this just before we went away on camp, so it's great to be able to do it now, and as well all the great stuff we get to talk about. Of course, your first international vest, which we'll jump into a little bit later on in the episode. But for now, do you kind of want to take it away, Michael? Give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so I want to just say thanks to you, Killian, for inviting me onto the show. Or onto the podcast. I've always kind of looked at the podcast, and I always kind of thought to myself, when am I going to get asked? But eventually, I started kind of running a few good races and stuff like that, and I got the invite then. But no, I'm Michael Murphy. I'm a 5K, and recently kind of started doing the 1500. It's only literally about a year ago, and I'm probably most known now for cross country. And I run for Tullamore Harriers, and I'm a master's student in DCU studying business management. I split the year so I could train a lot more, hence probably why I started running a bit better as well. So I have like half the modules this year and then half next year, but I kind of done it in a way that I have like my exams and my thesis and all the kind of harder bits this year. So then next year, my final year will be a lot easier, and it'll be a lot more continuous assessment. But in terms of running, I suppose I started off when I was like 7, and my dad and mum just kind of threw me into the Harriers, and I remember just doing some sort of session at the 200 mark and just kind of running to the finish line. I don't remember much of that, but that was how it started. And I just kind of was mixing between football and running and soccer and swimming and all sorts of stuff. And then I just kind of, to be honest, I kind of preferred football, and I gave up running for a bit. I kind of kept it up like 2 days a week just for fitness for the football. And but then I found I just kind of rekindled my love for running, and I haven't really looked back since, really.
You mentioned there, Michael, kind of about splitting up your year, and of course, anyone that knows you knows that kind of running is pretty much number one on your priority list, and you can see as of recent kind of how your results have come along so much. Tell us a little bit more about like how centered running is kind of around your life. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously the great academic stuff you're doing in DCU at the moment, it's clear. Obviously you're doing a master's like you mentioned, but running itself, the kind of how much of a focus is that currently in your life?
Like I think it's the fact that it's an individual sport that like I want, and every runner can probably speak the same for this. I think there's very few runners that can't or that don't say it, but like they just really want to drive and have the best possible outcome in terms of running. So therefore you want to maximize everything you put into the sport. So like I had a heart problem, and I got like 2 surgeries or whatever, and that's in the past now, thankfully. But my first priority was like, geez, would I be able to do running? And my mom and dad were like kind of saying like, forget about running here for a minute. Like you could end up dropping dead sometime out in the on the road out of nowhere or whatever. So think about your actual health as well, and think about us. And then I kind of had to take a step back and think, right, yeah, I do. There is more to running, but since that has gone by, I just I always wanted to prioritize running, and I made sure that I kind of passed my exams and, had some sort of income, with that being a job or, some sort of income, just so I wasn't, taking money off my parents or they'd have no problem with helping a bit of funding and all that. And, but I just wanted to make sure that I was allowed prioritize running. And, that was, if I was failing exams and all that and going on training camps at the same time, we would kind of be thinking, right, Michael, you need to up the game here, and you can't just be focusing on running and then failing your academics. So for me, it's a kind of a thing where I want to have all my things in check, really. So my academics, my income, paying for the masters, all this kind of stuff, paying for my races, and being able to do that whilst prioritizing running. So when DCU athletics, thankfully, to Paul Byrne and the likes of James Galvin and a good few people in DCU, they were offering me the masters in a split year. So I would be able to balance my academics. I would be able to kind of work a part-time job, and at the same time, most importantly in my head, is prioritize the running. So when I have all that in check, I think, right, okay, I'm allowed. I have kind of a point to prove here that I am able to prioritize running, and it's so far it's working. So it's working for me, and I haven't really failed at any of them points. So I'm just gonna keep going with that, like.
It's not a luxurious sport kind of on that side of things. You see football and whatnot. Players at young ages signing hundreds of thousands of euro deals with big clubs, but running's kind of the sport where at certain levels you need to make sure you have everything in check while staying on top of your running, and it just shows the dedication from yourself, but runners in general, you know what I mean? It's like it's nearly like an obsession, and they'll go to extents and extents to be able to make sure that they're running the best they can, because if you weren't running well but you were doing well in your academics or your job, that would actually still, slip in and kind of affect your other areas of life. So having that balance in every aspect for you, Michael, anyway, it seems to be really working.
Yeah, no, that was the biggest thing, really. I think, you know, going to college, obviously, it was like, right, DCU is the biggest thing, or the biggest kind of college in my head, because of the history of running in it. But at the same time, I was thinking, right, I have to still go for the course here, and I still have to have a backup plan, because obviously my plan A is, to become a professional athlete. And but at the same time, though, if that doesn't work out, I don't want to have nothing left and have no degree or no kind of, some sort of thing. So I need to make sure that I'm doing my academics and all that. At least then it's a backup. And if running doesn't work out, if I give it a good shot for 4 or 5 years after college and it doesn't work out, I have that to fall back on. The 2 degrees, the level 8 and the level 9. But for now, as you said, it's look, it's kind of it's a sport where your obsession is kind of it's to the forefront, and that's what it's just hard for it not to be, really, because it's yourself doing it. It's not like a team sport where you can just kind of rely on others. And I still back team sports and I still watch it, but like running, it's like you win the race, that's it. You're the person who's winning the race, you're the person who's coming last in the race. It's up to you. No one's going to tell you to get out off the couch and go for that run or whatever. They might say it, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. And that's where I love it. It's like, right, if I have to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning for a run or a session, it's obviously going to be tough. But the endorphins and like everything afterwards, when you actually achieve that little thing of getting up early, or, small little things like that, when you wanted to give up and you don't, all these things all add up, because at the end of the day, it's you doing it. It's not kind of me and the team done it or whatever. It's literally you, and that's what I love about it. I can get the best out of myself, and I love to see how far I can actually go.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a sport that really holds yourself accountable to the results, or I suppose the results you don't see at the end of the day. Michael, you mentioned DCU there, and you kind of, obviously that's where you're studying, and the support they're giving you to run to the best of your ability. And, we see many athletes going abroad, we see them going over to America, but you look at the standard that came out of DCU, you've Keelan Kilrehill, and especially Andrew Coscoran now, who's running at such a high level on the world stage. How much has DCU brought on your training, from camps to the sessions with the groups, with physios, with with Paul Byrne there, with access to him and all the knowledge and experience he can share with you since being in DCU, and especially now splitting your masters? How has it helped, and how have you seen your running progress since?
Well, I just think, if you look at past athletes, like no one really comes in as an absolute superstar. And like, it's not like people have come in already an Olympian or whatever. It seems to be like, Andrew Coscoran and Brian Fay, Nadia Power, all these kind of people have all come in and really progressed through the ranks, and at the end of their college career end up being an Olympian, and then it kind of goes from there. So it seems like DCU seems to be an unbelievable stepping stone, and that's literally how it's been for me. In first year, I was I was all online anyways. It was a Zoom kind of college year, Um, like I was still decent at running, but I was never winning medals, or I was never, running really fast times. But like there was no pressure there to run. Like Paul Byrne was the head of athletics at that time, and he still is. And he was just kind of like, there's absolutely no pressure here. It's a self-improvement thing at the end of the day. Obviously, yes, we have to represent DCU at varsity competitions, and there's obviously that is encouraged. But it seems to be like I've just slowly progressed, like a lot of other DCU athletes, and I just think you come out with a really good base, like a really, really good foundation. Like you're not kind of thrown into the deep end where you're, say, for example, I'm on like whatever, I don't really count miles, I kind of go on minutes, but if you were to look at it, probably near enough 80 miles or 75 miles a week. I'm not being forced to do 100 miles a week. And I think that's something really valuable with DCU, that there is no pressure, but at the same time, if you want to do well, it's up to you. So like I have the opportunity to use the facilities like the gym, like Morton Stadium, the swimming pool, all of these, the physio rubs. Like we have Dec Monaghan is kind of the main guy, and then we have like the ATT students who are really good as well. And it's up to us if we want to use them. Like they provide, DCU will obviously provide that. So that's where they come in. And then obviously the likes of Paul Byrne for support then as well. So I find that that's really the best thing about DCU. I haven't been under pressure to really, I have to run 13:20 for 5K or whatever. It's been a thing like, let's aim for that. And that's kind of the biggest thing. So I can't really thank Paul Byrne enough, really. I think he's been a huge help. And especially through when I had my surgeries, like in second and third year, I had like my 2 surgeries, and that was something that I said to Paul, like, look, I'm going to try and get back. And he said, look, there's absolutely no pressure here. Like, you don't want to come back too quick and then all of a sudden you need a 3rd surgery, because, so that's what I found was the best thing really with DCU. And it's really why I wanted to stay for my master's. I didn't look at America or UCD or Trinity or any of these other colleges that I would have been interested in. But because of the relationship I built around DCU, it really, it was a savage impetus for staying in DCU. So that's what I think, really.
Yeah, no, like you see the quality of athletes coming through nowadays, like Cathal O'Reilly and Sean McGinley and
Yeah.
Harry Colbert coming through, who, could have maybe gone over to America and gone on to do maybe different things internationally, but it just shows that the attraction with DCU is there. And one important point that he did make, Michael, is there isn't that pressure. If you do go abroad, or you leave Ireland and you go to maybe America or wherever you go to, if you're away from home and you pick up an injury, or the group you're doing is the group you're training with is doing 100 kilometers a week, it's like, and if you weren't doing that before, you feel pressured and you get sucked into it. But even though the standard of athletes in DCU is so high, there's still not that pressure to follow them. There's still the support group there, but you're still able to do your own thing at your own pace, and really do feel involved in the group. So like you said, there's so much outlets here, and then if you wanted to go abroad, that's your own choice, kind of down the line. But no, Mike, we've touched on kind of the different aspects that have helped you come on as an athlete over the past couple of years, and that has definitely translated into your running this season. We'll start, I suppose, back at National Cross in Gowran in, what was it, November time, and kind of lead up to the present day. Obviously, we had the chat after the race then, which, by the way, I got deadly feedback from that interview. So really do appreciate you on that sense. But we can, I suppose, dive into it a little bit more detail. Take us back to the cross country senior national championships, or I suppose under 23 for you this year, and talk us through that race, and kind of you've had the time to process it and think about it and go on and do different things since then. So how does it sit in your mind now today?
Well, like to start off, like the actual prep for national cross, like I know I didn't make the Euro cross team in the end, but I put myself in the criteria. But like for August and September, man, I was literally so unfit. Like I was so unfit, man. It was like, oh God, like my heart rate was so high, and I just found it so hard to actually just get fit. Like, and I was thinking, when is this going to happen? But Rob, my coach, Rob Denmead, he just kind of said, look, I don't think you're going to run that well in cross country, because all we're going to do is hills and threshold. we won't dive into the actual details of the training because Rob would kill me. But
Yeah.
it's look basically for the whole cross country season, threshold and hills, and it was kind of proper threshold. Like a lot of the time, I probably would have thought my threshold was faster than what it is, and I had to kind of push the ego to one side and think, right, my threshold here is 6:10 a mile for whatever back in August. I have to work on that. I'm not just going to go and be a hero and run 5:10 pace when I don't need to. So like for the first few weeks in September, October, I wasn't running with like the DCU athletics group. Like I was literally on my own because I would have been out the back door. And like I know that's that's fine if that is the case. But knowing me, I would have just went with the group, and then I wouldn't actually improve. So I kind of had to hide in the shadows for a bit, and I think a lot of people noticed that I wasn't kind of really posting as much as I usually do, and a lot of people probably know me for that. So I just kind of had to go through that, that drawing board where I just had to go slower and prepare for this, and then all of a sudden I done like one session in Tullamore, like it was like an 8 mile run or a 6 mile run where I kind of varied the paces. So I started at like 6 minute pace, and then like the next mile was like 5:30, and then like 5:50, and then like 5. It was like a varied kind of pace run.
Yeah.
And I was just like, after the run, I was like, that felt unbelievable. It was literally, I don't know where it came from. It was like all of a sudden it just clicked. This was like maybe the third week in September or second week. It was just literally the week after Griffith Avenue Mile. And I ran Griffith Avenue Mile, and I ran like 4:09, which was decent. It's a grand race. It's a good race, and I'll be doing it next year. But that was just kind of lit like off threshold and maybe like 8 by a K, a small bit faster in hills. So I was surprised with that run. But then when I really felt it was like the next week where I done like an 8 mile run or whatever, done that session and felt unbelievable. And I was like, right, okay. And I a lot of guys that I raced against don't know this, but like I wrote down all the guys that are part of the under 23 team, like that could make it. And I kind of said to myself, right, he's beatable. He's beatable. he's in the NCAA, so maybe he might not get picked, or he might get picked, whatever. And man, it just literally became like this obsessive game. Like I turned into like David Goggins really for like, man, it was ridiculous. Like if you ask anyone on campus, I was like a monk, man.
All you were thinking about, all you were doing, kind of
All
your life
I was
revolved around it for them couple of months leading up.
Yeah, like I was all in. Like I obviously mentioned it in the interview with you after, but man, I was all in. Like there was nothing that could stop me from like performing well. And Rob even said to me, Rob said, "Look, Michael, you're way off at the minute for national cross in terms of making the team. Like the American guys are better than you, like Dean and Abdel and Michael and whoever, which they are. They've ran faster than me and stuff. But it was all a case of would they come home or whatever. But so I knew I wasn't good enough yet. And then I done the Leinster novice cross country, and I was really nervous for that. I like knew I would be the favourite for it, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, sure, you'll win this handy" and all this. But at the same time, I didn't know how to win it because it was so long since I was actually kind of like the favourite in a race, if that makes sense. So I was like, right, I probably will win this, but what way do I do it? And then I just ran the race, and the race went off, and we kind of went up this hill, and man, it felt so easy. And I just decided to like push away from the group after about 200 meters. And then after that, then I was like, right, I know it was only Leinster novice. There's still a lot to do for nationals, but it grew the confidence so much. It literally grew the confidence
in front of you, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And coming away with the best result possible leading into nationals is exactly what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So then I think, right, I have a cross country race in the bag now where I ran well or whatever. Nationals now, I still have to be locked in. And it wasn't this thing where, I know I said I was kind of like David Goggins, but it wasn't this thing where it took over everything, where I couldn't really function properly. I was still able to balance, assignments and going to work and, interacting with friends and whatever. But it was all the little minor details. Like I got slagged for saying about going to sleep early and all this stuff. But I think like if you're a college student who's living on campus or near campus, it's like one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something going on every night, and you're friends with guys and they're like, come on out for the crack or whatever. And I'm just kind of saying, no, sorry, I have nationals in 6 weeks' time or whatever, uh, and but that was that. But then nationals came, and Rob said, look, don't go out too hard. Lads will die, and sure enough, they did or whatever. And I knew then I was kind of right. Oisín was going to go out hard, Oisín Spillane, and because he was in really good form, really good shape. And but I knew the rest of the guys like Cahill and Sean and Callum, like they were obviously better than me on paper, but at the same time though, like they weren't like way better.
Yeah.
Because like on paper, yes, they were way better, but trusting myself in training, and no one really knew what shape I was properly in. So I was like, right, okay, just back yourself here, back all the weeks and all the early nights and all the early mornings and all of this. You have to back yourself here, because I was actually warming up in the race and before the race, and I said, right, when this gets tough now, just you can give up kind of thing. Like there was some negative thought in my head, and I was like, here, hold on, I'm not going to go down all the way to Kilkenny. I know that's not that long, but and then it starts hurting, and then I just give up.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, I'm not going to tell everyone, oh, sorry, I can't go out for tonight, or I can't go to that meal to have food with you, or I can't whatever. I have nationals, and then all of a sudden blow up at nationals or just give up when it
How
hurts.
did you find them small things translated into the train? And obviously you're telling us here how they translated into the day of the race in terms of your mindset, but in terms of your training, because I know, like you said, people can get lackadaisical, like it's just one night, or it's just one pizza, or it's just one
Yeah.
drink. How did you find the consistent small things translated into your training? Did you really feel like it did spur you on? I know you said you had some really good surprising sessions there, but those consistent small things that people do lack, because 90% of the time people do get out the door for their run or for their session. It's the small things like an extra bit of strength or an extra bit of mobility, or not having that drink, or not
Yeah.
having that food, or going to bed early. How did you feel like they did translate into your training and the build up to nationals?
I just felt like I was way more prepared. Like I wasn't tired going for my sessions. I was getting up early, and it was just, I think actually, to be honest, the best thing was the routine that I set for myself. Like for example, on a Tuesday, that was like one of the key days. It still is one of my key days. It's a double session really, but I get up at like 7:30, and it was actually like deja vu every time I got up, because I had my tablets I have, like my iron tablets or whatever, and get up, put the tablets on the couch in my kitchen, put the tablets on the couch, have my glass of orange juice, make the porridge, eat the porridge, all of that, wait around kind of for a bit for the food to settle, walk down to the treadmill, warm up for my session, do the session, and then come home, shower, and then I had a lecture from 11 till 1, and then that was fine. And then at 1 o'clock I was coaching DCU social runners, and that was 1 o'clock till 2, and then after that come home for a nap, and then have food and then nap, or vice versa, whatever. And then I was getting up, kind of maybe a bit more food or something, and then warming up for my next session. And then I'd come home from my next session, dinner, and then chill for like an hour or two, and then bed. And it was like the best routine ever, because there was no other kind of distractions. There was no kind of, oh, do you want to go out tonight? Or that was primarily the biggest thing, to be honest, going out. And that's what I found really, really helped not going. Like, look, I'm all for having a crack and moderation and all that. I went out after my after national cross, and that was good crack because of the result and all. But I just found I was way more prepared, and I think that was the biggest thing really. So, and then it really showed in the race. The race actually felt kind of easy. Like it was, I was obviously dead after, and it was like the thing that kind of really slowed me down was the muck.
Yeah.
And it slowed down everyone really. It was like 9K, and I was like 32 minutes or something. And yet last year for 10K I was 32 minutes. So,
Yeah.
but I just think really, man, my head was really in the right place, and there was nothing that could really stop me, or nothing could really tempt me. Like even the few days before nationals, my roommates made brownies, and they were like, "Here you go," and like they gave me like a big quarter kind of piece of the brownie, and I was like, "Oh, like I want that, like I literally want that," but I was like, "No, I'm not doing it." Like even if it didn't affect the race, I know that if I did eat the brownie and it did
You would
affect the
slip into
race,
something else nearly. You could slip into
yeah,
getting up for training, or you might have you don't want to basically break the chain nearly. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
just a little hint of like, oh, why don't you do this? And obviously my roommates didn't mean that in badness. They were
of
just literally
course,
offering
yeah.
it because, but it was just like, you know what, I'll just wait until after Sunday, and then I'll just, I can have a break then. And then after that break, then after nationals, I had like a few days where I maybe done training a small bit like later than usual,
Yeah.
or
Had
I
a
had a
couple
few line up.
burgers or something.
Yeah, yeah. I think I had a Ben and Jerry's. I think that was the biggest one.
Oh,
And
happy
then
days.
I went back into the routine because I found the routine is the best thing. I wasn't getting sick as well, man. I think that was one of the biggest things. I found that like I had so many things in check. Like I used to be like getting like love or not love. I used to always get like colds and like sicknesses and stuff. And now I find that I might get it like once a year. Like I had the chest infection there during Christmas, and like 2 days before Portugal, I was kind of off the antibiotics or whatever. But that was that was the only one really. Like there was no other sickness, nothing really like that. So I was just like, right, this is working for me. So let's just continue to do it.
That's what it takes, though, isn't it? It is the small things, it is the routine, and it's good to hear from someone that's actually is actively, going about that way of life. Because especially this time of year, everyone's like, right, gonna make out a plan, gonna set out a routine, and then they kind of drop it straight away. But for you to do it and for the results to show, because it's definitely no coincidence that this season you've gotten your first Irish Fest. You know what I mean? It stemmed from all these good habits, all these good routines, all these good sessions, even from all the way back earlier in the year when you were going slower in the sessions. It's led to a consistent and long cross country season. And of
Yeah,
course, we'll get into your we'll get into your international vest now. But then obviously we had the chat after the race. You crossed the line, you kind of seen and knew who was in front of you. Take us back again, kind of what was going through your head at that time, because I know emotions are high and your head's racing after the race. But now that you've had time and you've got your Irish vest, what was the mental space like after when you maybe realised you just missed out on Eurocross and having to watch it at home?
yeah. So like, I actually have a few things to say about this, really. So like, I watched the NCAA's the day before, and I'm kind of friendly enough with the guys, anyways. In the NCAA, and I kind of watched the results. So I thought, right, okay, I don't know what this will mean, like if wherever they came. So I know I just have to come. I said to you like top five, I think might do it, or I know top three is guaranteed. But there was like 300 to go in the race, and my legs literally like just collapsed. With like I was in like 26th, I think, or 25th, 27th, I think, and my legs like literally collapsed like jelly, and like Sean McGinley passed me out, and like Jake O'Regan and John Travers and Jack O'Leary and all these kind of big names that I would have been like, right, I would have loved to beaten them, like, and but they all passed me out, and I came across the line, and I said, and me and Sean were kind of on the ground, and I said, right, will that be enough? And Sean goes, nah, definitely not. I was like, oh, this is going to be such an anticlimax, like. But then I was like chatting to Callum Morgan after the race, and uh, obviously before I got interviewed by you, and we were like saying like, I think I could have a shot here, and people were saying, yeah, I think you will, like, you've put your name in there now, and it's just a waiting game. But I think the biggest thing for me was Eurocross. I knew there was guys injured, so I knew this was probably my best year to make it. Now I still have one more cross. I'm still under 23 for one more cross season, so I'm gunning for that really. But even though it's like 10 months away, but I I I had a finance exam on the 11th of December, and Eurocross, they were leaving, or like I still got all the emails about what the plans were, all that. You fly out on the Thursday or whatever, and so I knew like the Eurocross was on the 10th, and I thought, right, okay, if I make Eurocross, I get to postpone my finance exam because to like a few days later, maybe like the 15th or something, and I get to run Eurocross. So I'd be absolutely buzzing. So I kind of delayed really studying for the exam because I was so obsessed with like with making Eurocross. Like if you ask any of my friends, like they'd be saying, "Here, do you want to come out tonight?" I'd be like saying, "Sorry, no, Eurocross." Like it was just kind of
Like
this key
forcing it
word.
into existence, like.
Yeah, yeah. It was like Eurocross, even though I hadn't even run nationals yet. And But look, it didn't work in my favor, but whatever. But I think it was like, I was more so when I didn't make the team, I was like, right, I need to start studying for this exam.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, I'm not going, there's no chance now I'm making the team. So I have to go and study for this exam then. And I had like 14 days or like something like that to study for it. And then sure enough, then the exam went well. But when you talked about watching the race at home, I went to Munich to the European seniors
Yes, I've seen that.
and to watch that. And I watched Israel and Brian Fay and Dara in the 5K and the 100 meters. And there was like 60,000 people in this stadium. And I just was watching and I just said, like, this is all I want. I want to be the guy walking into the mix zone or going out onto the track and racing that race, or I want that. And I just wanted that for Eurocross. And then when I saw it on TV and everything, I was like, right, okay, it's. I obviously wanted the lads to do well, because you name all six of them guys on the team, my team. I'm friendly with them, and I get on well with them. I've raced them all my life, so I wanted them to do well, and I kind of knew that they were going to be up for a medal. Obviously, it didn't end up in the way, but it was disheartening, to be honest. It was disheartening because when I asked, for going back to Munich, I remember I said to Mark Milner, who was one of my friends, I said, do you want to go to Munich with me? And he said, no, I'm not going to that. Because like he would be in the mindset of that he should be competing at that,
Yeah.
which is fair enough. And then come August time, a few of my friends and my dad said to me, look, do you want to go to Brussels to watch the European cross country? And I said, well, Dad, I'm hoping to make the team. So,
You could kind of see where
and
he was coming from then with the mindset of you should be in the race, so if you're not in it,
yeah,
you don't really want to be there watching it.
no, that was the whole thing. Well, he asked me, did I want to go? And he could go and book flights. And I said, Dad, no, like if I don't make the team, to be honest, I know they're my friends on the team and stuff, but I would be absolutely sickened if I went and watched that when I thought I should be on the team, or if I got close to making the team. So I said, look, I'll watch it from home, because I'd just be raging, to be honest. Like, it's in a good way. It's a whole, it's just my love for the sport. I wouldn't be raging at the lads, or like, it's just my whole love for the sport that I would be thinking, right, I just wish I was on that, So, but I think that's working in my favor for the next few races. Like, I'm going into every race now thinking, right, I want to win this, or I want to run this fast time. I'm not going to advertise. Yeah, like I'm not advertising to everyone that I'm with that, which is something I probably used to do. I used to kind of say, I'm hoping for whatever 14:10 or something, and then I'd run 15:10. So it's more so a thing in here.
Yeah.
And but it has kind of put fire in the belly, really, to kind of drive on, and you will make these championships, or you will run this fast time, you will win this race, or whatever, in a positive way. It's not a cocky way, it's just kind of a positive, confident way. So
definitely. And Michael, talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on the selection process, because the under-23 team and the senior team heading over to Brussels had two different, I suppose, processes. And in terms of the senior team was directly top six, and there was talk about the amount of big names that were left at home, in terms of Ephraim Gidey, who obviously is a specialist on the road, but he's a medalist in over a third place medalist over Eurocross, and of course Darren McElhenney as well, who's been competing at such a high level over the past couple of years on European stage. And I know his training was a bit wishy-washy leading up, and it wasn't maybe as consistent as he would have liked, in comparison to the under-23 selection process, where obviously Michael, Dean and Abdel are doing serious stuff over in America, and they were chosen to take the three not automatic spots. So comparing the selection process of the under-23 to the senior team, where maybe the process of the seniors selection would have worked in your favour if it was consistent in the under-23 process. How does that kind of sit with you? Is it a little bit bittersweet? I know you've been mentioning how you're not angry at the lads and you're close with the lads. It was a personal thing for you in terms of watching the race and the selection process, but thinking about that now, kind of how does that sit with you?
Well, like, look, if like Brussels, I don't think it was supposed to be as mucky as it did end up.
Yeah.
But like if you look at the men's team, obviously the men's had like 6 unbelievable athletes, but their team came fourth from picking all 6 from home, and the under-23 came 10th. And look, they're different athletes, they're different people, they're younger, other lads are older, whatever. But maybe like if the course was like Goran seemed like nearly the perfect trial, and I know a lot of people mentioned that.
Yeah.
Even the guys on the race in the race said that Goran was like the perfect trial for the European Cross. But like that was obviously unknown to Brussels. I think wasn't supposed to be that mucky. So in that sense, you know, obviously you're going to think, right, well, we can't really judge it off Goran. But at the end of the day, like Nationals is known as the trial, the Euro trial. So, and obviously we all know that if you perform well at NCAA's, you get picked. But I think it was like one of the first times really in an under 23 category. I could be wrong in saying this, but like that all three were picked. So like I was expecting like Cahill to get picked really. I was under the assumption, look, I'm in the last spot here. I'm technically really ninth if you look at it, because you look at the three Americans kind of ahead of me, you know, whatever. But look, I think because like me and Sean and Cahill, we ran well on that Goran course. Like we were able to run through the muck and, you know, beat a good few guys that we probably wouldn't have beaten before, or well, I wouldn't have beaten before. So I think that course definitely would have suited the likes of me, Sean and Cahill. But at the same time though, if you look at the three guys from NCAA, they have a lot of experience in racing, you know, top level athletes, and they've been to Europeans before and all this. And it was an interesting one really, because I didn't really, you know, argue the fact that the NCAA lads should be picked.
Yeah.
Although I thought though that we should still be picked, the lads at home. So yeah, like I think I said to you in the interview, it was bittersweet, and I don't know if I'll get picked or whatever. And I was probably talking absolute rubbish in the interview as well. And but I think, I don't know. I think it is a hard one to choose, because when you do look at when they picked the 6 Irish guys in the seniors, they came fourth. Like they were whatever 1 point or 2 points off a medal. And then, you know, the NCAA, or not the NCAA, sorry, the under 23 team didn't do as well. But I can't really comment on that because I wasn't on the team. I can't really call them shite or whatever, you know. And then like I wasn't even a contributing factor. So look, it's still a top 10 finish in terms of team, and the boys still ran well, relatively, like, you know. But I don't know. I think if it's known as a trial, and we all know that there's 6 people getting picked, you know, it should be judged off that, really, you know. But that's just my opinion, and a lot of people probably argue that.
Yeah, I suppose if you're looking at it in terms of consistency, the under 23 race in comparison to the senior men's race where it was top 6, and like you said, I know people were talking after nationals, being like, it's not going to be anything like that in Brussels. You need the fast lads, you need the Darren McElhenney's and things who can go fast. But it did turn out to actually be more similar to the conditions in Kilkenny than we expected. And obviously the NCAA lads, who, like you mentioned, are running at such a high standard, but the courses are very different. So it is different running, and obviously the selection process isn't easy. But like you mentioned, Michael, you weren't gonna argue either way. If you got picked and the 3 lads that race in Kilkenny got picked, happy days. You know, you're going to Brussels.
Yeah.
And the 3 lads that are running such a high standard in the NCAA, if they get picked, and obviously they've raced Europeans before, but it obviously didn't seem to be a factor if you look at the senior men's race, but the standard that they're running as well, you can't really argue that. So look, either way, and like you mentioned, Michael, you know, it is all about on the day. But look, you did mention you have another year under 23, so the fire's definitely still in the belly, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. It's obviously you have some other top guys coming up like Niall Murphy and Nick Griggs coming up, but I'm kind of under the assumption now. I used to be like the kind of guy that would think, oh, like these names, they're all gonna just beat me because, you know, because they've always beaten me. But I've kind of grown to the fact where I know now that I'm able to improve as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just gonna stick always being beaten by these guys, and people know that. It's the same with them. Like, you know, there's obviously people that I've beaten before who are thinking, right, well, you know, I'm at, like, this is the other person talking. You know, Michael's beating me the whole time, but I'm after improving. So what's not to say I can't beat Michael now? You know, so it's kind of that mindset now that's kind of kicked in, that like, obviously, yeah, the standard's going to be really tough again this year, like in 10 months' time. But that doesn't mean like I don't get better by then. And it doesn't mean people get injured or sick, or, you know, not everyone's going to be in top form, and including myself, I might not be in top form. Touch wood, obviously, but I just need to keep going the way I'm going. Like I was sixth, and I think if I performed something like that again, I probably should be able to get picked. So obviously with the novice win and Celtic International and all that, like that all kind of is brownie points towards cross country running, regardless of track, you know.
And of course, Michael, you did come away with the novice win, which is it's again for you on the day maybe was a little bit bittersweet. Give us your thoughts on that. And it's not the first instance I've heard it actually for Clonliffe Harriers before. We were going to get team gold, but then similar situation happened with you where we had an athlete who actually wasn't eligible for novice, so we ended up claiming silver. For you, it was the other way around in terms of the individual. You moved from silver up to gold. On the day, you didn't get to stand on the first place, the podium, all of the posts, everything that you've seen. You were second place. You know, coming first is amazing in itself, and being recognised as the champion, but there's a lot of stuff that goes with it that are just as enjoyable, like standing first on the podium, getting your picture taken with the gold medal around you, you know, the presentation, all of that. It's definitely an enjoyable part, and kind of missing out nearly on that on the day due to the I suppose logistics of novice racing. Tell us how you feel about that.
Yeah, well, like the race itself, like Rob was in the Tullamore tent with me, and he said, look, if there's been ever a chance to win a race, it's today, you know. And I thought, yeah, okay, perfect. Like, you know, I have so much confidence here after nationals and stuff, and this is my only chance that I can be a novice. So like I got like a few people slagged me for doing the novice race, and I kind of thought, like, you know, am I just going to bypass that category and never do it, or will I just go and do it and win it, you know, and just get it out of the way?
In novice championships, like they kind of throw to the
side. Like they kind of look down on it or something, like, you know. And I was kind of like, yeah, fair enough, but sure, I'm just going to go and win the category and then not have to look at it again. And but anyways, the race itself, like there was a few guys that like went flying off, and I said to Rob, like, you know, should I go with that group? And he said, no, like, let them off and you'll catch them. And it was 4 laps, and you know, Kevin went off then after 1 lap maybe. There was 3 laps left, and he went and he had like a 10-second gap. And I, for some reason, I don't know why, but I just fell into like 7th or 8th, and I felt absolutely crap. Like, I just felt absolutely crap. And there was like 2 laps to go, and Kevin had like a 10-second gap. And I remember, like, there's a place I kind of go to train. It's like a wooded area for like hill reps, and my mom and dad kept shouting that at me, like, think of, you know, and then they named the place. I won't name the place because again, Rob will probably kill me, like, so. It's like, it's our secret weapon. I'll just say that place is like our secret weapon, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really just drives in here, you know, like when you're kind of thinking of dropping out or whatever, that place kind of kills that mentality, you know. But there was 2 laps to go, and Kevin, I was just like, right, hold on here, like, I'm after training so hard, and all of these guys, I'm nearly sure I beat them all in national cross, so I'm not going to lose to them now. And I just started closing the gap on Kevin. I just kind of said, right, and I just drove through the pain, and then the pain just kind of went away. It literally just disappeared as soon as I drove through it, and then the next 2 laps felt so easy. And I was just running, chasing Kevin, caught Kevin, and then I passed him out. And there was like 700 meters to go or so. And I thought, right, Kevin's gone. And I like looked to my left, thinking that there was like William Fitz, the guy who came third, well, now second now. I thought it was him. And I thought, right, okay, this will be a good battle or whatever. And I looked to my left and I see Kevin. And I was like, oh, no, like this is going to come down to like a last 200 meter sprint or something. And he's a 148 guy, you know. So I was like, I'm just not going to have the wheels for this, but I'll just give it a go anyways. And he ended up winning or whatever. But I think the worst part for me, really, and Kevin will say the same, like, I get on well with Kevin, and there's no bad blood there or anything like that. I'm just back from Portugal with him as well. So, but when I was coming up the home straight and Kevin was just in front of me, I don't know, like 3 seconds or something, the crowd was like massive, and I just was dying to win that and like have that crowd. And as you said, the pictures, and all that, like the kind of media and all that, because kind of Rob kind of said, this is kind of your opportunity to make yourself known as like a good cross country runner
Yeah.
or a good runner. And I came across the line and I was like, right, okay, I came second. I'll take that. I'm happy. It was my first national medal. Like I
Yeah.
never medaled before. I had like a few team All Ireland medals, but never an individual. And so I was like, right, I'll take that silver medal or whatever. Get on the podium with Kevin and William, and it's great crack. Still got all the pictures and all that.
Yeah.
And like I come home and I'm in the shower. I came back to DCU. My parents went home or whatever, and then my dad rings me and kind of said like, Tullamore, after kind of finding out that Kevin medalled at national seniors before, and he was ineligible to race, and I was like, right, okay, I will look whatever, and then he said, well, you'll be getting the gold medal now, and I said, I don't really want the gold medal, like
Yeah.
it's not, I didn't win it, like I didn't win the race, and Dad was saying like, I know that's obviously going to be hard to take, and it's not a proper win and all this, but Kevin didn't know. Kevin was actually working in a shop. He works like part time in a shop back at home, and his phone apparently was going absolutely 90. Like he said, he like turned on his phone and it was just hopping with messages saying like, probably some of them were probably like, well done, great race or whatever, and then some were probably like saying like, it's a disgrace you weren't allowed to run and all this. Like what were you at and all this, and it was obviously unfortunate whether he knew or not. And like in my eyes, like Kevin's from Navan and the race was in Navan, so I'm kind of thinking, right, Kevin, he's just going to do a race in Navan, win a home race. If I had a race in Kilbeggan, I'm obviously going to do it and try and win it. It'd be cool, like And but he ended up giving me the medal straight away and stuff, and he was kind of really upset as well. He kind of said, look, if I knew I wasn't allowed to do it, I wouldn't have done it, because I'm taking away the win from you, and it's embarrassing for myself as well, because
That's actually very true. Yeah, like him actually having to, you were talking about you getting the medal. You didn't feel like you won it, but at the same time, him actually having to hand the medal over
yeah,
is the other
yeah,
side of it.
yeah. Like that was the thing, and he said like I shouldn't have done the race. He medaled basically in national senior indoors, in the 1500 the year before, the year Luke McCann won it. So he came third in that, and I knew I was at the race that he done, and I'm nearly sure I got a picture with him after the race when he came third, and but it just literally, I don't know, it just went over my head, and it's not like a thing where I would have been spiteful or whatever. If he was registered and I knew, I obviously would have just said, wait, you're not able to run that. You're not a novice athlete, You won a national senior medal, and he would have been like, oh sure, yeah, whatever. I
Yeah.
can't do that. Never done it. But there was a lot of people that on social media and stuff that were like arguing that Kevin should have got the medal and saying like it's unfair on Kevin, and that he medaled indoors, and how does indoors come to play with cross country. But like my kind of coach argued then that like there's three senior categories. There's a senior category, a novice category, and an intermediate category. So like they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Like they're there for people to get better, so you move up the ranks or whatever. So like obviously my plan would be to win a novice medal, win an intermediate or whatever, and then eventually win a senior. Now obviously I'm not hoping that it goes in that order. Obviously I'd like a senior medal now, but uh,
Yeah. Don't have to wait
but
out like.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they're there for that opportunity. And like if they weren't there, that novice cross country, like you could have like Brian Fay or someone like showing up to
True.
novice, and like a 1301 guy. So like, is he really considered a novice athlete?
Yeah.
Like this is why it's there. So that was kind of the biggest thing that I was kind of more annoyed about, was people kind of saying that's ridiculous that indoors comes into play and all this.
And
And
the rules are
I,
clear though.
I
Like
didn't,
it's not.
I didn't
It's
get I didn't get involved in any of the whole
yeah.
like, there was one guy who said like, how's those indoors come into play, and I just kind of commented, how does, and like the little star thing, I like correct him his spelling
Just not to
mistake,
get
but that,
involved in in the actual, I suppose, rules of it. You lads just
yeah,
went out to run the race, and like you said, from Kevin's point of view, there was no intention there. Like you mentioned, if he'd known he probably would have been like, oh yeah, fair enough, and you would have came away with the win on the day. But like you said, the rules are there, they're clear, and there's no kind of bad blood obviously between you and Kevin
Yeah,
whatsoever and all that's not even a question. It doesn't even come into it. And then I do think people just need something to argue about. People do like just having things to argue about and be able to kind of to spend their time talking about that. But look, it is a national medal, and with all the rules and logistics and all put aside, you are novice champion. That is the title that you've gotten, and you got sixth in the under 23 national. So it just shows from your point of view, from a personal point of view, because it's a very, very personal sport, that you are making progress, and next year, in your last year as an under 23 cross country athlete, you are very much in contention of getting a senior national medal.
yeah, exactly. Like it's obviously like I have to kind of take it day by day, and cross or like there's track obviously beforehand. And I want to try and get my times down in track,
Of course.
and then come back to cross country. But the plans aren't confirmed yet. But like I can probably see myself probably preparing for this cross country, like the next nationals before, or sorry, and like maybe not doing as much track later in the season. Like
Okay.
I could do a few track season stuff like in April, May, June, but then maybe start preparing for cross country then, because I think that's where my best opportunity at another Irish Fest would be. Like there's no track opportunity for me this year in terms of an Irish Fest. There is the opportunity to run fast times, which I want to do, and I hope to do. So like I want to get the 5K time down, and the 1500 and whatever 3K. But as you said, like it's just about progress really. But like I when I was with Rob like a few years ago, we were looking at Euro under 20s and cross country and track and all this, and I was nowhere near good enough. But he said to me like, "Look, Michael, if you don't make the under 20s, like there's still the under 23s." And like now I'm all of a sudden in my last year of under 23s. It's just flew. It's just flew. But at the same time though, like if I was to look back at, like you kind of have to remember, like I would have wished a few years ago to be where I am today,
Exactly.
and that's the way you have to kind of look at it. I tried so many years to try and break 15 minutes for the 5K, and well, it was 17 minutes and then 16 and then 15, and I just couldn't do it for 15, and then all of a sudden then I'm just doing it, like, and it's just happening. And now obviously the plan is sub 14, so it's just stepping stones really, and there's probably like 10 stages, and for maybe the cross country I was maybe on step 4 or so, and that's so I'm only tipping the surface really, Killian.
No, it's refreshing to hear though, Mike, because and people you hear of these young talents and people I've had on the podcast, and you're talking to them, and they're winning national medals year in year out from the age of 8, 9, 10. You know what I mean? They're a young
Yeah,
prodigy, like, and they're great to have. You have your Nick Riggs, and everyone loves Nick, and the stuff he's doing for the country is. It actually has never been seen before because of all the junior records he's breaking, and will continue to break as his last year as a junior. But it's also refreshing to see an athlete at your level, because like you said, there was a time where you would want to be in the position you're in now, and there's a lot of athletes looking at you, Michael, who would love to be in your position. But it's
yeah,
really, really refreshing to hear and see the natural progression you can get to to an Irish Fest, and to even being in contention for a European Cross Country Championships is an amazing position to
yeah,
be in. It's an absolutely, and it reflects on you as an athlete. But again, it is a refreshing thing to hear that someone may be running now at an under 17 level, who is going into junior next season, who may not be as far up the field as they would like, but they kind of listen in today and they take a look at your progression and see over the next 4 or 5 years that they can chip away and chip away and chip away at the training and be consistent, put the
yeah,
ego aside as much as possible, and get to an Irish Fest, and hopefully, fingers crossed, all going well. I know you said one race at a time, a European Fest next year, so I must say it is definitely refreshing to hear. And you talking about it now and looking back, I suppose it is being able to take the time and seeing the natural progression that you made yourself.
yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like I never had the mindset of you know I always wanted to, like I remember I ran like Enfield 5K a few years ago, and I ran 16:44, and it was a massive PB. It was like 30 seconds or 35 seconds, and I thought like this is unbelievable. And then like the next week, Dara McElhenney and Micheál Power ran like 13:54 and 14:04.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, like that's where like I want that, like
And that's
But
you think that's where
I
you
do
need
that.
to be.
Yeah. Like that's it's like they're older than me. They're like 2 years older than me, or a year and a half, or whatever. And I look up to them lads, and I always did look up to them guys when I was kind of like Brian Fay, Cosker, and whoever, Dara, etc. But now I'm like kind of in contact with them guys, and I've been running with them guys and all this kind of stuff, and it all starts happening. Whereas, I think that's really, it comes down to your dedication towards the sport as well, because there's been so many times where, say, when I was running 16:44, and the going would get tough, and I'm just like, just go back to football, or whatever. There was a race when I ran the 16:44, that track season then, which was like a month or two later, there was an under 23 and under 20 track event. It was the Nationals, and they threw the under 23s in with the under 20s, and it was a 3K, and like Cormac Dalton was in it, Shane McAvoy, Shane Coffey, Jamie Battle, Keelan, like all these lads, and I was just like, right, I just hope I don't get lapped, and that was my goal, to not get lapped. And they came into the finish line, and I got the bell. I got I'm not even messing when I say that. Like I was like, I remember coming across with 400 to go, and they literally came in behind me to win it, and I said, right, I've got my goal of not getting lapped. But and that was in a 3K, like there's
Yeah.
7.5 laps, like, and but in saying that though, I came across the line, I was like, right, okay, I didn't get lapped or whatever, but I was like, everyone thinks I'm this elite back at home in Offaly, with a 16:44 and all this, but I'm just getting shown up here in the actual events. And my mum would be at races, and my sisters, and I'd be out the back door, like, and mum would be like saying, "Will you come on, Michael? Like, come on, move your arms. Will you just move your arms?" And like, it was so disheartening, like for me and for mum, really, and my parents, and my dad and all this. But then when you start actually kind of training, and you start to see kind of bigger results, you start to get that medal, like it might be a Leinster medal, and then the Leinster medal might turn into a Leinster track medal, and then a cross country medal, and all this kind of stuff, and it all starts coming, and then you're able to actually kind of think, right, this is worth it, and you do stick to it, and you will start to see progress. Like, I'm kind of hoping this year to hopefully get near breaking 14 minutes. Maybe if I could try 14:10 or so, but if I could get near it, and that will be like 5 years on from when I saw Dara and Micheál run nearly the exact same time that I'm hoping to run.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy, like, in my head.
And now you're just a couple seconds off. Kind of, if you were to
Yeah.
break, just in hindsight, break 14 minutes, over the season on the track, whenever or wherever you do it, it's now only a couple seconds off. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's kind of the point where you have your Dara McElhennys and things like that are young prodigies, and they are breaking records at young ages and setting new national junior records. It's you have them athletes, and you need them athletes. You know what I mean? Those athletes do progress the sport in a great way. But for you, it's like how close you're getting by tipping away over the years. You know what I mean? And I go back to the point of how refreshing that is to hear, Michael. But as well, your point of being a hero back at home, and then you go to a national level, and you are at the back door, and these lads are lapping you. That is very disheartening, because within your family and within your friend group that maybe people aren't into running, and they're hearing you running 16 odd minutes or 5K, and they think you're this superstar, and then you go to races, they're expecting you to win, and they may not realise the quality of the athletes that you're actually racing. It is disheartening, even though you know yourself, like, yeah, these lads are unbelievable talents. It's what they're thinking as well. It's in the minds of your mom and your friends back at home. It's a hard one. It is a hard one to take when you come back to your roots, I suppose.
Yeah, well, like, if I was to win like a park run now, or a some charity 5K run or something like that, like for a bit of money or something like that, and I jogged around it in 21 minutes or something, or like, I don't know, maybe like 18 minutes.
Yeah.
and I won it, they'd be thinking, geez, are you going to the Olympics?
Yeah.
And but then if I come 37th at national cross, which will happen, which is what happened, they'd be thinking, oh geez, did you have a bad race? And I'm just like if
37th in
you
the
only
country.
you understood,
Yeah, yeah,
the quality is insane. Like it's absolutely insane. Like it's ridiculous. But at the same time though, it is a small bit of a drive though, that like, right, they're thinking like 37 is crap. What if I told them I came like 15th next
yeah.
year? And like that would be unreal then. I came 15th in the national cross country, or so that's it is kind of cool when you're like, because like you're thinking 30, they think 37th is like no good or whatever. And but then if I kind of think that it's no good and I come 15th, I'm thinking, right, well, I never want to come anywhere outside of top 15 again. So it
Yeah.
is kind of a thing where you want to prove a point as well. But at the same time though, it's hard for them to understand the actual quality of Irish athletics at the minute. It's insane.
Of course, but look, now Michael, you get to go back to Offaly. I know you're up in DCU at the moment, but you get to go back to Offaly next time you're down with an Irish vest and being an international athlete, and that is something that no one can
Yeah.
disregard. Whether it's a European vest or whether a Celtic vest or whatever kind of vest, whether it's bloody mountain running, whatever, you're going home and you're an international athlete, and that is the main thing, because like we've mentioned, of course, we're still looking on to your Cormac Daltons and your Brian Fay, who's a Nike athlete,
Yeah.
and you want to be there. But so many people are striving for that Irish vest to be in the position that you're in now, and no one can take away that you are now an international athlete. How does that feel after all them years of really striving to get that vest? And of course, we've mentioned it before, next year you're looking for that European vest, but for now, kind of looking in the present time, being an international athlete, like we mentioned, whether it's Europeans, Celtics, whatever, how does that feel now, looking back and reflecting on knowing you're an international athlete?
Well, just to clarify, I run for Tullamore, but I'm actually from Westmeath, so
Oh, I
yeah,
said
no,
back home to Offaly, didn't I? Yeah.
yeah, no,
Back
yeah,
home to.
no, I'm
I
from
sure then
like I'm
that's
literally
only
from
down
the
the road,
border.
like.
Yeah, no, I'm from the border. I'm from Kilbeggan, which is like, if you like, if I was to run like 600 meters out the road, it'd be Offaly, So,
Yeah, okay.
no, but I just know a few Westmeath people would probably get annoyed at me if I said I was Offaly. Yeah, so. But no, getting back to the point, in the airport after, I kind of went up to Mark Keneally and I just said, look, it's thanks for the opportunity and obviously selecting me, and I know I obviously earned a spot. I didn't say that to him, but he said to me, like, you've earned this spot now, and well done, and it's fully deserved or whatever. But I kind of said to him, look, it's been something I've been really chasing for the last few years, and even I went on a run with Harry Colbert yesterday, and he was saying how lucky his age is. So like he has like under 18s, he had like Euro 20s, Euro cross country, world cross, all this, like all these opportunities. Whereas for me, it's like my age is kind of an unlucky kind of group. It's like, I know there was last year, there was the European under 23s, but I say in my 3-year cycle for under 23s, there's only one track, and then like there's 3 cross countries. Whereas some people might be able to get like 2 track, or like so it kind of, it makes the singlets a lot harder to get. So the fact that like I got this singlet, I was like, look, I was actually rooming with Luke Johnson for Celtics, and I said, look, here, we kind of need to live in the moment here. Like, I know regardless of how big the event is or whatever, it could be our last ever Irish Fest. You never know. Obviously, that's not the aim. I want to get as many as I can, and that. But look, it is kind of you set the standard, really. It's kind of a thing where you wear the vest. I don't want to drop out of the race. I don't want to kind of embarrass myself, like, unless something severely bad happened or whatever. But it does make you kind of, it's a bit emotional, to be honest, because man, there's so much training, there's so much sacrifice, and there's so much like money as well spent on it, like, and for you to come out with an Irish Fest, it's not much, but at the same time though, it's so invaluable. And I think that's like one of the biggest things, really. And it just makes you really kind of accept the sport. Like, there's so many times I'm like in college, and lads are saying, oh, how's running going, all this, and I'm like saying, yeah, grand, I was 6th under 23 there. They'd ask about a race, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, all right, okay. They don't really understand.
Yeah, of
But
course.
then you say like, oh, I was running for Ireland the other day. Then it's like, right, geez, that's class or whatever. It's unreal
Yeah.
then. it's like, right, okay, this is actually kind of cool, and I kind of want to set the standard there that this is who I am. This is the kind of standard of runner I am. I'm not just kind of a runner that will do it once. I don't want to do that. I want to keep going, and this is only the start really, and then you keep going from there. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
You mentioned there, Michael, kind of taking it in and being within like the race. It doesn't matter the standard of the race. It's an Irish race. It's an Irish vets, an international race. Coming back now to a national level, has your perspective changed? Has your confidence been boosted? Has it been kicked on now that you're back and you have the Irish vets? Have you seen or felt a mindset shift or a confidence boost now running back at home and eventually when you do another race here on Irish soil? But obviously like we mentioned, the standard here in Ireland over the past couple of years and through the age groups has skyrocketed. But for you personally, after getting your Irish Fest, how has that changed your perspective or your confidence within running now?
Well, like if you look back at home, like for Westmeath and Offaly, like a lot of people would kind of not really understand the whole running thing, Um, a good few articles kind of came out about me there, winning the novice or getting selected for Ireland, all this kind of stuff. And now people are kind of thinking, oh, geez, he's the guy that does running, he's the guy that's good at running or whatever. So that's kind of a really nice thing. But in terms of like a confidence kind of thing, like back in the day, as I mentioned earlier, probably an hour ago at this stage, but I mentioned that like I would be looking in a race. I would be at a race and I'd be thinking, that's whoever. He's unreal. He's ran for Ireland, or he's ran this. And all of a sudden my head is fried. I'm like thinking, right, automatically he's going to beat me.
Yeah.
So, but now that I've kind of gotten this Irish Fest, I'm not saying people are thinking that of me, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm one of the best here. Like regardless of times or whatever like that, I'm thinking, right, I deserve this here. Like, I'm going to go into this race confident, and there's nothing going to stop me. I'm not just going to back down to some guy that I would have looked up to years ago, because what's the whole point then? Like, what is the whole point of running if all your life you're just going to train and train and train, and then you're improving, but then you come to a race day then and you're just going to accept defeat before you even start the race. So I think that's the biggest thing for me for getting the Irish Fest. It's like, obviously I know everyone in my age group, there's really good runners in it, and there's guys that used to beat me that now I'm beating, and there's guys that I used to beat that are now beating me, and etc. It's really competitive at my age, but it's changed my whole mindset in terms of racing, really. Like, because I'm just kind of going into the race now thinking, yeah, like, I deserve to be here, I deserve to be at the front, I deserve to win this race. That kind of mentality. But it's not a cocky way, because
yeah, of course,
I don't want to thinking like, I'm this guy, and then all of a sudden then I come last,
Well, no, your point,
So
your point of losing the race before it even starts, it's like it's not a cockiness thing. It's actually just a shift in mindset, because everyone does it. Even my age, and if I was racing national cross country last season, I'd have been on the start line with lads like Nick Griggs. You know what I mean? And obviously
yeah,
Nick Griggs is going to beat me, and he's going to beat everyone else. And you've lads like Harry Colbert there as well. But it is about shifting that mindset, being like, okay, maybe this guy could beat me, but I know I can put myself in the race. It's kind of shifting it as like a switch of switching from, okay, he's going to beat me, to where can I see myself coming in the race. And it's not an arrogance thing or a cockiness thing. It is
yeah,
genuinely just a confidence thing to push you forward in your race.
yeah. Like, that's the thing. I just, even going back to nationals, I knew, like, I was like 14th under 23 last year in nationals, and there was guys that beat me, and there was under 20 guys that, if you were to look at the equivalent of what they ran under 20 to where they probably would have came under 23, or they would have beaten me, so I could have probably been further back. But I'm not going to do all this training and sacrifice all these things and tell everyone, yeah, I'm the runner, I'm the guy, I'm the runner, and then post all this running content on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and then it comes to the race day then and just accept defeat. Like,
Yeah.
I've trained for this. I've trained in a specific way, in order to actually peak for this race, I've tapered down properly for this exact race or whatever it is. I really don't want to come out with any regrets here. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, I don't want to just be like there were so many times where in a race it would hurt and someone would go by me or whatever, and then I'm thinking, oh, this hurts so much, and then I come across the line and it doesn't even hurt. Like, it just,
It's like
and
a couple of seconds where you could have had more moments of joy if you kind of just grit it out throughout the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm kind of thinking, right, just fight through that. Like, you've went and you've done hill reps where you're nearly getting sick at the top of the hill or whatever, so you've actually trained for that. So do it, and like, don't come out with any regrets. So that's kind of the biggest thing, really, because, I'm training for, I've got an Irish singlet now, and I don't want to just be kind of the guy now that gets the Irish singlet and then just gives up or whatever. You kind of keep going then. That's the whole plan. And going into the race, then you're thinking, right, this is going to hurt, but it's definitely hurting for everyone else here. It has to be hurting for everyone else. There's no way that, like, with my train, yes, although there's better athletes than me, there always will be, but there's no way that this isn't hurting them. And in my opinion, I'm fitter than these guys because I'm trusting my training, I'm trusting my race results, I'm trusting my coach, I'm trusting the support from my family and friends, from DCU, etc. It all adds up. And I think that then results in success.
Definitely. No, you don't want to be losing the race on the start line before the gun has even gone off. But on that note, tell us a little bit about the race itself, Michael. Talk us through how the race went. I know we were talking over on Instagram a little bit off air about the race itself, but as well for everyone listening at home and maybe in a little bit more detail, tell us how, because I know earlier in the episode you mentioned the two heart surgeries that you had, and it slightly came into play in the race. I'll let you obviously talk a little bit about that. And I also heard it was is it quite a flat course? Is it kind of around football pitches?
Yeah, so I was kind of raging that it was like really flat and fast. I was because if you look at Goran and you look at Navan, like, they weren't the two nationals. Like, Navan was kind of like, it was kind of like you go uphill, turn around, kind of go down the hill and then up another hill. So there was still some good running. It was fast, but it wasn't as fast,
Yeah.
And I saw this race, and when we got sent out the picture, I saw the race and I was like, oh my God. I zoomed in, I could see like a picture of a goals, and I was like, oh no, like, this is just going to be the fastest course ever. Like, and I'm just like not prepared for that. But like, look, I was going to back myself. Like, the way I was thinking in my head was treat it as like an 8 kilometer kind of training run where you kind of go fast, and thinking of it like that, as if you were running down in St. Clair's in DCU.
Yep.
So that was the whole way of thinking. But I was hoping that there'd be a few logs or a few hills or a few bit of muck or whatever, just to kind of help my, for me, put an advantage on me in terms of everyone else. But the race went off, and I actually ended up at the front for the first like 200, and then
I seen that in the photo.
Yeah, and then I looked back and I saw like a load of people, and I was like, right, here, hold on, this isn't happening here. So I just literally slowed myself down, and I got back into like a group of like 15 guys, maybe inside the top like 20 or so. And it was 3 big laps. So the laps was like 2.7k, I think.
Okay.
And that was grand or whatever. And the first lap went off with loads of support around the pitches. It was actually really spectator friendly. But that was grand. First lap went. Second lap, I'm feeling really bad at this stage. Like, not really bad, but I wasn't feeling as good as I felt for Goran and Navan, the two of them courses. I felt like I was in peak form for them. But if you were to go back on the last few weeks, like, I had a chest infection during my exams, and I went on antibiotics and a steroid as well.
Okay.
And I had to taper the steroid off, or and spend a week on the antibiotics. And then about 2 or 3 days before Portugal is when I actually started running again. I took like 10 or 11 days off. So it wasn't the best setup. In Portugal, I didn't lose any fitness, I thought, but I didn't have a really hard effort since like the national novice.
Okay.
So it was the national novice, and then I get sick. I trained then for a bit, and then I get sick, and then I'm kind of training. But as you've seen, like I was just training really threshold stuff and a few fast bits, but they weren't as hard as the race on there the other day, and that was fine or whatever. So I wasn't really prepared for it. My heart rate was kind of higher in sessions and stuff, and I kind of found when I mentioned to you that in August and September when I was kind of really unfit and stuff, my heart rate was so high. So if you were to imagine like my threshold heart rate at the minute when I'm going fit is like 175 to like 182. That would be like my zone. But when I was unfit, my heart rate for like threshold was like 184 to like 190 maybe.
Okay.
And when I had my heart problem, I would just be running and it would go to like 250 and it would just stay there for like 2 minutes or so.
250, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ben Pattison actually has the same or had the same surgery and had the same condition, and he actually spoke about it after he won the bronze medal. But and then it would just go away. But the thing is, when my heart rate was higher than threshold, so like say 184 to 190, it's closer. That 184 to 190 is closer to 250 than 175 to 182 is,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, of course.
So there was more of a chance of an episode happening, and I would get these kind of mini episodes in August, September where the heart rate would spike up to like that for a bit, and it wasn't ideal. Like it hasn't gone to 250 since like 2021 or so, or 2020, but it's still gone past like 200 or so. But so when I got sick, then everyone knows that when you get sick, your heart rate becomes higher. And my heart rate threshold was like higher again. It was like in the 185s or 186s. So I'm closer to 200, obviously. And then we go on to the third lap in the race, and I always have something left in like the race, like in the last lap. And I remember there was like a kilometer to go, and I turned left, and I like looked back to see like was there many people left behind me or like catch me or anything like that. And then I remember thinking I was in about like 25th at this stage or so, and 24th or so, and my legs just started filling up with lactic acid, and my heart rate started going like crazy, and I was like, oh no, like there's a kilometer left in this race. Why is this happening on my first Irish Fest or whatever? And then about like 20 people passed me out. And I was like, oh no, like this is a disaster. I was like Chep the guy in the World Cross.
Yeah.
My mom was at the race and dad as well. And they were like saying, come on, Chep, And I was like to mom, I started speaking to her. I was like, no, I can't. My heart's going crazy. Like I was literally having a conversation in the middle of the race with about 800 to go. And then the mad thing is then a load of people pass me out or whatever. And then it just disappears. The heart thing disappears, and I'm able to run again. And I start absolutely hammering it, like with like 500 to go, and I passed out like 7 people with like 400 to go. So I was happy with that.
Yeah.
But it was fairly frustrating, losing that many places with like a kilometer to go. But I couldn't really do anything about it. Like as I mentioned to you, that whole thing of when it hurts, you give up. That whole mindset's gone now.
Yeah.
Whereas that looked like that was like I actually couldn't do anything there. And it just seemed like as well, I just knew people, now no one has said it, that I have used it as an excuse or anything like that. But I just always, in the back of my head, was like, people are just going to think this is such an excuse now. But I genuinely couldn't really do anything about it. And then it goes away and I'm fine then. So, look, it's not something to worry about really, because as I said to you, my heart rate was kind of high in training anyways.
Yeah.
So the possibility of that happening is more. So it's just a case of really slowing more things down and getting my heart rate back to in the 170s really, which will take 2 or 3 weeks anyways, and that's been happening the last while.
You know at least that it's not the racing that's the issue, because you've
Yeah,
seen throughout the cross country season with the novice and the senior national championships that you can race no problem, you can race to a high standard and you can race in much tougher conditions and have no issues. But it was just the not ideal build up to the international race with the antibiotics and being sick, and as well, being over in Portugal, the weather conditions in comparison to here to Ireland probably weren't ideal for keeping your heart rate low either. So kind of
Yeah.
looking at it from that point of view, rather than getting worried about it in terms of, oh my god, I can't race because my heart rate gets too high. It was just the far from ideal build up to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
international race.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I didn't fully taper for the race either. Like I tapered like 5 days beforehand.
Yeah.
Like if I was to taper for a race, it would be like 10 days or so. That's when right, it's go time here. But whereas I was in Portugal, I didn't want to really waste the whole trip
Of course, yeah.
of just jogging for like 20 minutes or something like that. So I'll just kind of train through it a bit here and taper for the last few days. So, which wasn't too bad. It's no harm really, because you don't want to come off a camp like really tired and fatigued anyways. So it wasn't. It was grand really in the end. I was just glad that the whole race wasn't an absolute disaster class, like where I came like last and like I disappointed everyone in the Irish Fest. Like I know a good few people were like looking at the live results, like friends at home and family and etc. And they were all gunning for me as well. So I really didn't want like an absolute crap race. So I was still like third Irish home, and like we still came like second team, and I was still fairly happy. I was sixth under 23 as well, which was still a decent result. So I got it in the end.
No, 100%, 100%, and everyone knows that you've had surgeries, and the build up wasn't ideal. So definitely everyone is more than delighted with and especially I'd say even the lads on the team as well, taking team silver, and
Yeah.
for yourself in your first international race, kind of at least it wasn't your own fitness and mindset. It was more of an outside factor, I suppose, to put it in simple terms. But Michael, no, I really, really appreciate you coming on the show and having a chat. Like I mentioned throughout the episode, it's really, really refreshing to have someone on who has made such great progress through the years in a more orderly fashion. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there's going to be people listening in who were in a position that you were in growing up through running, who may be having a mindset of, looking at lads running much faster and representing Ireland from an early age and thinking about sacking it in, but kind of listening here today to your natural progression and to going on being in contention for a European vest and getting your first international vest. It is great to hear, so I do really appreciate you taking the time to come on and have a chat.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I suppose before I kind of go, I just want to thank like my family as well and friends and my coach Rob Denmead and DC Athletics. Like I wouldn't have been able to do any of that progress if it wasn't for these guys. So no, I just really appreciate that. And obviously I really appreciate you asking me to come onto the podcast, because when it's about running, like I can go on all day, and we've gone on nearly an hour and a half here. So it's fast really, because me and you are both two people that love the sport and we love to see things like this happen. So no, I really appreciate it, and if there's anything else like that, no problem again. So thanks, Killian.
Love it. No, thanks so much, man. Really, really appreciate it. And I was thinking to myself, no better man to come on and talk about the sport. You've both aspects of it. You've the passion and you have the talent as well, which you don't always get. Some people are just kind of naturally talented and the passion isn't there. But it's great having someone like yourself on who has both. And of course, the new workout video just went live over on the channel as well. So there'll be a link down in the description for that, for anyone listening in that wants to give that a watch. But as well for everyone watching and listening at home, I do really appreciate it, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.